Thanks.
You look rested, actually.
All right, here we go. Well, good morning. I'm Carlos Lopez, Director of Latino Tax Fest. We're here today with John Sapp, CPA. Uh, John will participate as a moderator for two of our panel discussions and his own presentation about expanding your practice at Latino Tax Fest. We'd like to introduce him so you can get to know him better. So John is a CPA with over 30 years of experience in tax, technology, and business strategy. After retiring from Drake Software this year, he now focuses on speaking, consulting, and supporting meaningful nonprofit initiatives. Known for his practical, engaging style, John brings real-world insights and a fresh perspective on growth, leadership, and impact. Good morning, John.
Hey, Carlos, how you doing?
Hey,
I don't
good.
know why fishing was not in the focus
Oh,
things.
fishing.
Yeah, so yeah, forgot about that.
Now, is that surf fishing, deep sea fishing, lake fishing,
I am in the mountains trout fishing.
mountain,
Yeah.
stream fishing
So,
then, huh?
yep. I live right outside the Great Smoky Mountain National Park, so we
Wow.
spend a lot of time
Is
doing
that
that,
for
trying to avoid the bears.
is that for lake trout, rainbow trout, brown trout,
Rainbow brown and brookies,
brookies?
which are
Okay.
called the speckled trout. So yeah, that's
All
what
right, man. I love it.
yeah.
Yeah, when I was in college, one of my biology classes, we had to learn how to go fishing in the streams up there behind our wonderful.
Man, they didn't do that at my college, that's for sure.
So, John, can you tell us something about yourself? I know you just did, but something else about yourself that people don't know, but you would like them to know?
Well, a lot of things I'm glad they don't know, number one. Um, but I spent a lot of folks because I was in Drake Software for so long, they don't know that I was in public practice originally when I graduated from college, and did a variety of work with both national firms and smaller firms, with a lot of small business clients and a lot of individuals that had a lot of odd tax situations. I actually graduated college in 1986 and made my career early on knowing how to turn on a luggable computer laptop, compact with a screen about that big, and I could start the golf game on that computer for all the staff to, I won't say gamble because I don't think gambling was as legal then as it is now, but to partake of the little golf games that were on that computer. So I was the national computer liaison at that time because I could turn it on and start that golf game.
Nice, nice. The early Pong days, huh?
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
So, John, can you give us an overview of the panels and your presentation that you'll be participating in at the fest?
So, sure. Let's start with the two panels.
Okay.
The first panel will be with some really heavy hitters from the IRS. Terry Lemons, Chuck Reddick, former Commissioner Derek, um, from the liaisons, the leader of the taxpayer liaison, to talk about issues that the IRS is facing. And, everyone, not everyone, but a lot of folks don't care what issues the IRS is facing. They care how it impacts them, their practice, and their clients. And I guess we've all seen over the last 6 or 7 years, we're kind of used to the IRS being a whipping, uh, kind of it's always standing at the whipping post for Congress or other folks to um, take shots at them as they've had enforcement efforts that have went well and some that have went poorly. And customer service are probably the two things that impact our clients the most. But some of the things that they're doing today are really interesting, such as, they are putting more and more functionality in the taxpayer portals and the tax pro portals. How do we get our powers of attorneys? How do we get our communications when our clients do get notices? How do we ensure that our clients' refunds are gotten to them? And then, of course, we still have ID theft and security issues and legacy technology out there, in addition to how the political environment used to, the IRS would take those shots in public, but behind closed doors, all of Congress knew the only way they were all going to get paid and our government was going to function was for the IRS to bring in the revenue to do that. And so behind closed doors, they would talk about tax policy. They would ensure that it could be implemented and all those types of things. And so I think that is probably one of the larger issues the IRS is facing today with transition in leadership, not just the leadership from a personnel perspective, but leadership just from a function. We have a CEO now. How does that impact the IRS's ability to continue to work with Congress to ensure that we get tax policy decisions that can be implemented from the administrative side, which impacts all of our practices? That panel will be extremely interesting. The second panel on 1041s, I'm going to learn a lot from that panel. So the questions you're going to hear from me are probably going to be really dumb questions about how the 1041 process, works. Where's the manual aspect of that? Where's the automated aspect of that? Just because returns are e-filed, does that mean the entire processing is electronic or automated? How is AI impacting all of that? So we'll get some great experts on that panel that have way more depth of knowledge about, and sometimes that's good in a panel to kind of have a stupid moderator, which is probably why you asked me to do it. When it comes to that particular segment of forums, I'm very interested to hear what that panel is going to help out with, as our clients do need that, estates and trust planning, which we see an aging population. Obviously, more and more of those are going to need to be filed. I haven't looked at the IRS projections. The IRS projects out return volume up to, I think it's 10 years. They project what their return volume is going to be. I'd be curious to know if that 1041 is projected to increase in volume going forward as we see a transference of wealth over the next 10 to 15 years. And I think you're actually on that panel for the Espanol side of that. Is that correct? What are the issues that you think that panel are going to address?
Well, the biggest issue in the Hispanic world is, when undocumented workers come over here and they get their I-10, which is a temporary ID number to report your taxes. It's not a path to citizenship. But what happens now, and that's what's been happening in the past 10 years or more, is banks are now lending on these I-10s. They're giving credit cards on the I-10s. And now these people work, they make money, they pay their taxes, they have to file tax returns to keep their I-10 number valid. And so now they're accumulating assets. They're accumulating property, they're accumulating automobiles, they're accumulating money in the bank. What happens if they accidentally get deported? What happens to those assets? So we have some very knowledgeable attorneys that have carved out a way for these workers to be able to protect their assets in case something unfortunate happens. And that's been a big issue in the Hispanic community with the present administration's, removing undocumented workers. I think it's been toned down quite a bit, where it's only the criminals that are being deported. But that's what we're noticing, is how to protect these assets for these working individuals.
That'll be extremely interesting. That issue is something you've got my wheels just spinning in my mind about the I-10 and how hard the IRS worked for so many years, 30 years, trying to get the I-10 unassociated from any other aspect of government, just so that they could be in compliance with our tax administration. Any immigrant, right? Anybody that didn't have a social security number, and trying to ensure that there was a wall between tax administration and all other immigration enforcement. And we've seen that wall, I won't say it's broken, but it at least was I don't know if attacked is a seed laid siege to, let's put it that way, this past
Yeah,
year, a couple years. And without saying whether that's something that makes sense or not, at the end of the day, the repercussion of that was potential impact on compliance and potential impact on um, the assets, as you say, of these individuals as they make a life here under a certain set of rules, and which is what small business leaders for years have said. We really don't care what the tax policy is, just make it predictable.
yes.
And when we started having expiring tax breaks, that made our all of our lives less predictable, and it made business decisions much more difficult. We saw Congress address that with bonus depreciation and R&D expenses and those kinds of things as business decisions were being made. These are life decisions, not just for your business, but for your entire life. And just having a predictable arena to play in, I think, would be um, extremely beneficial for our entire tax ecosystem if we keep just in that context.
Right. Yeah, and the biggest challenge too we've had recently is, like you said, this is an IRS program all the way, 100%, the I-10. And for years, the IRS has always made it very clear that the IRS will not share taxpayers' information with any other agency. Well, that's come under attack recently, and it's been a real sent shockwaves through the immigrant community. And so we're hoping that we can work something out with the IRS and with the current administration.
I'm
But
hopeful of
it
that
is a
too.
challenge.
It just makes sense for
Yeah,
our country, not just for
it
the
is.
individuals involved. Yeah.
Yeah, it's tax administration, and people are filing their tax returns and paying their taxes. But yeah, we could talk about this all day. And then you're
15
going to do
minutes.
your own presentation. What's that going to be about?
I got to tell you, I am more excited about this particular presentation that I'm going to be doing. Um, and maybe it's just because I've had this tax season off for the first time in 40 years. My dad was a CPA too. So even as a kid, I'm not 40 years old, I'm 60 years old, but even as a kid, I had tax season. My dad had an office in our basement when I was growing up before he got
Wow.
out and, had opened up his own place. So, all of us kids were always tiptoeing around anytime the phone rang. Um, and we couldn't answer it until he got his business line put in. But even then, maybe I'm just refreshed, as a new perspective here. But as I've thought about the last 5 years, especially, and the changes that are happening in tax practices, not just tax, but tax and accounting, right across some really interesting statistics. And I think a lot of accounting and tax practices hear the term advisory services, and they don't really know what that is or how to get started doing it. And we're going to, in this session, we're going to talk about why you should think of what are advisory services, right? And to put it in very easy terms for everyone, it's talking to your client and giving them advice. That's what you're doing. And so in this session, we'll talk about what it is, and we'll talk about how to get started doing it. And here's a spoiler alert. Really, it's just about asking questions and then listening to what they tell you, and finding out kind of more about your client's business and how do you probe to get there. And some folks are thinking, well, how do I have time to do that whenever I've got a backlog of returns that I need to get done? And so, how do we think about balancing our practices? Just one thing to consider, according to one survey of CPA practices, their advisory services grew at almost 3 times the rate as their overall firm revenue did. So while their advisory services were 17 to 18% revenue growth, all their overall firm growth was only 5 to 7%. So that's not 3 times. I'm sorry, that's 300%
Yeah.
um, difference in the growth. And it really is where, as we think about the advent of technology that are impacting all of our tax practices, is knowing where to put a number in your tax software going to be what a client will continue to pay you for in the future? And the answer is, again, spoiler alert, is no. They are not going to pay you to know how to key a number into a tax software. They're going to pay you because you know their business and know how to help them navigate the future themselves. And so we're going to spend a good bit of time talking about how that looks. How do you put together a step-by-step strategic plan for any client? And then at the end, we're going to go through a recent strategic plan that I did for a nonprofit that I work with, just to kind of give everyone some practical boots on the ground examples of what that process looks like and how the end result looks for your client.
Wow, man. Phew, I better be in that one. Yeah, that's great. So, John, is there anything else you would like to share with the audience today?
Yeah, I'm excited to see everyone. I think that my favorite part of these conferences is discussing what's going on in your particular tax practice, what's going on in your tax and account, what's going on in your community. That's probably why you and I, Carlos, whenever we have these conversations, we only spend about 20, probably drives your people crazy. We only spend about 20% of the time talking about tax stuff. And the rest of it, we're talking about what's impacting the people that we're talking to. And the folks that reach out to me, they're by and large, they want to talk about the future, and they want to talk about how do they take advantage of what their future looks like. And their future may look like growing a firm to a level where they can have successful financially. It may be that they want work-life balance. How do I balance having small kids at home with also trying to build a business? Or it may be, how do I ensure my clients are taken care of as I phase out of my practice? And I love hearing those stories. I love hearing the success stories, and I love hearing the uh, people's plans on how they accomplish those types of things. I remember when I did the session, I think it was last year, on nonprofit and doing your 990s. It was a fairly technical presentation, but at the end of it, I had several folks come up to me and say, this has inspired me. Just thinking about this has inspired me to become more involved in this particular nonprofit or that nonprofit, or be involved in my community and help serve others in a bigger way. That's the unique thing about this particular conference that you put on, Carlos, is it is all about hands-on. It is all about shaking hands. You give tons of opportunities to network, tons of opportunities to just stand around and talk to other preparers. And it seems like at this conference, more people are open. They're not intimidated by other people. They're more open to just having telling them practice, what about their practice, what about their clients, and just talking about how to find solutions. So that's the thing I love about this conference, and that's what I'm looking most forward to.
Well,
Did
yeah,
that
thank
answer
you.
your question, or did I go way off?
Yeah.
I feel like I went way off.
You did, and thank you so much for your insights on that, because that is what we do, is we want to encourage the community, encourage networking, encouraging meeting of speakers. And so that, this is going to wrap up our spotlight this morning, but we'd love to see everyone that's attending at the fest. Call us at 866-936-2587, or visit our website page, latinotaxfest.com, to see the agenda. Reserve your spot. This is coming up real soon, and you don't want to miss John's presentations or his moderations. Everybody is going to have a great time, and you're going to learn, and you're going to walk away going, wow.
And get to see you in a Hawaiian shirt. So
All right. I'll be there with my Hawaiian shirt.
that's good.
All right. Thanks a lot.